Hi everyone, welcome back to Finance, Relationships, and Reddits. And today we're reading a story from Relationship Advice from Oblivious Ocelot 8315. Are we ready? It's going to be a bit of a long one.
Okay.
My daughter, 18F, against my 45F advice, decided to come out to my wealthy, bigoted parents. They have now disowned her, and I'm being blamed. What can I do to fix this? This is going to be long, as I said, but I need some real help here because I just don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore.
Came out as in saying they're bisexual, gay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind
Okay.
of thing. No, it's just like coming out and literally just like leaving the house.
To be sure. Yeah.
So I'm 45 female, a single parent of two children, 17 male and 18 female, and the unfortunate daughter of two boomers, both in their 70s. My parents are the epitome of white, wealthy, boomer stereotype. They're entitled, racist, sexist, make America great again, brains idiots who abuse service workers for sports and think that attending church on Sundays makes them good Christian people. They are also stinking filthy rich due to them capitalizing on a series of business ventures in the 1970s and 80s and generational wealth, so they're packing seven-figure bank accounts. My entire life, my parents have held their money over my head as a tool in order to get me to do what they wanted. In my teens, I ended up rebelling and going no contact with them, but when I became pregnant by my late husband, he convinced me to give them a second chance and let them back into my life. Since we reconnected, they have never given me a dime for my own costs, and even after I lost my husband, they only ever helped me pay off the house my husband and I had bought together, but this was purely to keep the roof over their grandkids' heads, not their daughters. In spite of that, though, they have truly been pretty good grandparents to my kids, and they have always known that they would fund them through college and that on their passing, they would also inherit millions. The issue began 4 months ago when my daughter came out to me. I was so proud of her, and that I had successfully fostered an environment where she felt safe enough to open up to me like this. I was so happy. Afterwards, she broached the topic of extending the news to her grandparents, and that's where my smile faded. The following is an abridged version of what I told her. I want you to be your true self, and I will never deny you that, but your grandparents come from a very different world to the one that you and I occupy. If they learn that you are gay, it's not just that they won't be able to understand you, they're going to actively punish you for it. Every day, the world is becoming more and more difficult just to exist in, and your generation are eventually going to be facing challenges that my generation will never have to deal with. I want you to be safe and secure as you go forward in life. But because your father is no longer with us to help support us, I'm not going to be able to do right by you financially the way I wish I could have. If you come out to grandma and grandpa, though, you will not be their gay granddaughter to them. You will just be another F word. They will cut you off. That means they will no longer expense gifts, no more cars, no more free rides to college, no more private apartment, no inheritance, nothing. They will take everything. I told her I was by no means asking her to stay in the closet. She can still live her life as out and proud as she wants. Get a girlfriend, experiment sexually. I love this. But just do not advertise it on social media and definitely not to do it around my parents. My parents are old, they don't get out much anymore, and mostly just spend their time going back and forth between church, the store, and go home when they sit around reading conspiracies on Facebook. They are also not in good health, and I don't see them lasting more than 7 to 10 years. I told them that if she plays her cards right and lays low around them, she will never have to struggle the way so many of her friends are struggling, and that when the time comes, she can choose to bury them in a rainbow coffin if she wishes. At the time, she seemed sad, but she said that she understood, and we hugged it out, and that was that until it wasn't. My daughter has an online circle of queer friends that she speaks to daily through her Discord, which was written incorrectly. Oh, mommy. And they filling her ears with things like how she needed to come out to them, how by not embracing her identity fully, she still has one foot in the closet, and that even if her grandparents react negatively, at least she'll be living her authentic self. Since she started bringing it up, I have been trying to drill into her that it's just a terrible idea, that this was often and repeatedly, and though she was, and I thought she was listening. Well, it happens. We had dinner at my parents' house, and she decided to stand up in the middle of dessert and come out to them. She had this whole speech prepared about how she knows that they are from a different time, but how the world changes and how they will have to learn to change too, and that she knows deep down that they will come to accept her in time. And it was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Only my daughter was in the driver's seat, and the brakes were completely out of my reach. After she finished, my parents just gathered their things and walked out. That was a month ago. They have since disowned her completely. Last week, we received the news that they have written her out of their will. They have canceled the phone contracts and taken back the car that was in their name. My daughter was set to inherit millions, and now she will receive nothing. She's currently preparing for college, and now she's facing the reality that she'll have to take out loans and get a job. Even if I anticipated this response from them, I'm still thoroughly sickened, and I have cut them off for once and for all. One of the last messages they sent to me was, "We worked hard for our money, and she won't be using it to fund her degenerate lifestyle." This was the little girl whose hand they once held in the park, whose little body they once carried on their shoulders. I feel sick. My daughter is inconsolable, and she has turned her anger against me. She's blaming me for this entire thing, and every day she alternates between raging and crying and raging again. Our home has become completely inhospitable. Things have been broken, and my son and I are walking on eggshells. This whole time, I have just been taking her shit, but last night we had another confrontation. She screamed at me that this was all my fault, and then I just wanted her to live in the closet her whole life, and that I've never supported her, and this time I just snapped. I yelled back at her that I had warned her, and she chose not to listen. That her and her pack of stupid online friends and people who had never even met my parents, they all thought that they knew them better and decided to listen to them over that one person in the world who was actually raised by them. That I had advised her in the best investment she would ever make in her life, and she has blown it completely. Since then, she's been upstairs crying in her room, and I just don't know what to do. How in the hell am I supposed to navigate this situation? What could I have done to protect her from this? Am I really at fault here? What could I have done differently? And then there is an edit.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
There is tons. Would you like to go through the edits first to see if there's anything that needs...
Sure. Let's go to the edits first, and then let's go back to the fundamental question she is asking, because there's lots of different things you can comment on,
Yeah.
but I think it's really important we understand what is she wanting to get out of this. Like, what is the fundamental question she's leaving the group?
So the fundamental question she's leaving the group is, what can she do to fix this situation with her daughter? I think...
Okay, so it's the relationship with her daughter, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay,
so edit. I've received a lot of comments on this post and have gotten a lot of advice, more than I possibly have the energy to reply to, but I'm reading everyone's. Thank you to everybody who commented so far. I just wanted to clear a few things up before I just feel drained. So number one, I never once told my daughter that she can't be gay in public. She can get 6 girlfriends and walk around with one on a lead for all I care, so long as it's all consensual and she doesn't end up on the local news. I only ask that she kept it off social media, which her grandparents were part of. 2. The reason my children's father isn't around is because he is dead. He was struck and killed by a drunk driver 10 years ago. I have never remarried. 3. I have already disowned my parents once and for all. Please stop telling me that I need to stand up to them and defend my daughter. I have already told them exactly what I think of them, and they don't care. 4. My son will not be receiving my daughter's portion of the inheritance that has apparently already been allocated to go towards outside groups of my parents' choosing. As for what types, you can use your imagination. 5. I do think that what my daughter did was foolish, unwise, and ultimately stupid in the context of the security of her future. An unpleasant part of parenthood that people rarely talk about is that sometimes your children will do and behave in ways that will make you dislike them. By lashing out, abusing her brother and I, and breaking things around the house right now, I do not like her. But I do love her, and that love is unconditional. I will never do what my parents did to me, and I will continue to support her through this. And maybe some ways I will find a resolution. I don't expect I'll update this post. Thank you for everyone who stopped by giving advice and suggestions.
And the fundamental question is, how can I try and repair this with my daughter?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm aware, you haven't actually done anything wrong. You warned her. You basically gave her the choice. You can choose money, or you can choose, being your free self in front of them. And, fundamentally, she wanted to be her true self in front of her. I think what would be interesting is you clearly care a lot about money, or you care a lot about their money. You've said quite a lot of things like you roasted them at the start saying they're X, they're Y, they're Z. I don't know if it's true. It probably is true.
Well, considering how they reacted, I'm going to say it's probably definitely true.
And then you said they've got millions. They then paid for your house. They would pay for the kids' college. They then pay for their car. Also you mentioned private apartment. You also said their phone contract. So for you, the money's very, very important. Understand your daughter. What does she actually care about? Because you might find that she actually doesn't care that much about the money. What she cares about is losing her grandparents. You've already disowned them once. You knew this was a bad idea. You, let's be honest here, kind of made contact with them because your husband suggested it and recommended it before he died, and because of the money. You don't seem to agree with them. You don't like them, but you did it for the money. So, but you're doing it very much as a transactional relationship, right? You're saying, I don't like you guys, but I'm doing this for my grandkids because I know my grandkids will benefit as a result of your money. Understand what your daughter's view of it is. Like, I would say break it into two. If it's about the grandparents, then just be a mother and just be supportive on the fact that, say, the tough things you've gone through with your parents, the fact you had to cut them off, the bad things that basically they are, and just talk to her about them and be there and be supportive with her. But if it's more about the money, you also should then start saying, well, look, it's not the end of the world here. You still go to uni. Okay, you have to get a job. Okay, you have to get a loan. But I'm sorry, that's 98% of people. Like, it's not like, oh my word, the world's crashing down. No, I mean, like, the money, okay, it's a bummer. Okay, it's not very good. But it's also another one like, I did warn you. You chose this. You decided to take the risk. That's on you. But you can say that, but also mention the fact, like, look, it's not the end of the world. Also, they're in their 70s. You reckon their health's not very good. They might live to like 80, 10 years. She's 18. She's going to be 28. Her career will be very much established in 10 years' time, in 28 when they die, where she would be getting inheritance. So, honestly, I don't think the money's that big a deal. Okay, you're moving from being privileged, being very lucky, to normal, but I think you should be there just to support her with her grandkids. But her, storming about and being furious and breaking things and being very angry, that's unacceptable behaviour. You've disowned the parents as, again, you're backing her. So I think just continue to be there and back her, but also you need to just make sure that that kind of behaviour shouldn't really ever be happening. Especially if it's been a month that you said and it's still the case. So yeah, overall, you've got a tough situation. Honestly, she made the bed. Now she needs to sleep in it.
I think it's something you said, which I completely disagree with, which is that she cares about the money, the mum. And I think she does, but she doesn't care about it for herself at all.
Oh no, it's purely for her kids.
It's purely for her kids because she has no access to it. And I don't think she even wants access to it. I think it's very much like she was kind of hoping for her children that they learn from her mistake, which was basically like, oh, I can't change your guys' mind, so I'm going to do what I perceive as the honorable thing and make sure that you're out of my life. And then she came back for her, for her children. And she was saying, don't make that mistake because actually they're leaving everything to you. And being a multimillionaire is not an easy thing to achieve in one's life. And I kind of understand where the mom's coming from. I'm not saying that what she's doing was fair on her kids, because obviously she had the same moral set when she was their age, which is why she cut her parents off originally. But she is saying, look, I don't have the money to pay for all of this stuff. There was, what was it? There was the car, there was the phone bills.
Phone bills, college as well.
College,
They mentioned a private apartment.
yeah, the apartment that she was going to live in for.
They paid off her house when her husband died.
Yeah, so that they didn't lease the house, yeah.
She wasn't the most grateful when she said that. She was like, "Oh, just wasn't for me. It was just to keep a roof over their grandkid's head." I mean,
well, I think that's
maybe,
probably
but
something that they said to her.
maybe,
That sounded
but
very much regurgitated from, yeah. I find it interesting that they then chose to leave the money not to the son.
they're leaving it to this. Oh, they're not doubling it up.
They're not doubling it up. That they're going to leave it to.
Well, they do.
Other.
They did that to make sure he doesn't go. Okay, well, you can have it then.
Yeah, but I just think it's a tough situation because being part of that community, the LGBTQ community, especially when you're young, can be very much a feedback loop of ideas of being your true self, and that's incredibly important. But also when you have this echo chamber where you are putting out an idea of like, I don't feel like I can be myself around my grandparents, then someone says, well, this is something that you need to feel like yourself around your grandparents. I don't feel like I can be myself around my grandparents because they have ideas that I do not share. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to then go like, you're completely wrong all the time about this stuff, because actually at the end of the day it achieves nothing. In this case, clearly she thought it was something that was very important to her, which I understand. I get it.
I mean, it's a couple of things. It's either
But she did know in advance that this was a high probability situation.
She was either naive, which she probably was just a bit naive, to be honest. She was like, "Oh, they'll forgive me. They'll come round after our lovely speech."
Because of the echo chamber online. It is literally like, I want to feel like myself around my grandparents. They're like, you have to tell them, you have to tell them, you have to tell them. Sometimes, and there are children who then put themselves at risk when they tell their parents when they have those kinds of deals, and then the parents either send them to conversion therapy camp, which is tantamount to abuse. They put them on the streets and say, well, I didn't raise you that way, so you go and be yourself in the streets. And like, those are dangerous situations, especially when they're young.
Yeah, no, 100%, but this is not one of those cases.
It's not a dangerous situation, which I think is probably why she thought it was fairly safe to do.
But I think the key thing to understand is she bothered about the money?
Well, I think she's bothered purely about the money.
Because I have a weird thing of, I don't want anyone's money. Like, I wouldn't want someone's money. I would want to be pretending to be someone just for the money. There's almost like, if you are that strong believer, you're like, oh yeah, I hate them, they hate me, but I'm really bothered about the money. Who cares about their money? Like, they're going to give you...
Yeah, but it's also about going to university, having the car, having your phone, all of those stuff. It's like, weirdly enough...
Other people do. Other people go to uni, go to college with student loans while having a job, paying for their own beater car and paying for their own phone contract.
Yeah, like, it does depend on her relationship with her grandparents.
You know, who cares about the money? Screw them. You don't want the money anyway. They're not nice people. They're white, racist, sexist. They abuse service workers. They're clearly not nice people.
Yeah.
So screw them. Screw them and screw their money.
I think, to answer the question that Opie asked, what can I do to fix this relationship? I think it's so hard because coming out to your parent is such a difficult thing. And coming out to your grandparents can be much worse because, again, they're from a different generation. You are the middleman, which is the hard part, because you are the person who's the conduit of communication between the two generations. So my advice would be try and understand where your daughter's coming from, probably get her a therapist or something, because breaking things is incredibly... One, it's dangerous. It's not... You don't want to have to clean up broken things off the floor all the time. You miss a piece and then suddenly you're cutting your foot on stuff. But also, it is not normal behavior. It is very angry behavior. So maybe that would be a good idea to start with.
It's an interesting one if we talk about the breaking things. If she's breaking things, again, it comes down to what is she fundamentally annoyed at or upset about? Is it the grandparents that there's no longer a relationship there? Is it her mum for some reason that their
Well, she
mum
thinks
didn't
her.
support her? Or is it the money?
I think it's also like not the money, but a question of security that she feels in a very insecure
But
place right
that's
now.
something you can help with then. Just explain how it's not the end of the world. If it's about the grandparents, just explain how they're horrible people. Where you're going to have a tougher time is
She
if,
did,
but
though.
then there's no reason for that reaction. And if there is that reaction continue, you need to say, look, that is not tolerated. I have cut my parents off twice now. I am no longer going to speak to them again. I am right behind you 100%. You do not need the money. People do it all the time without it. And third of all, you don't want to be friends with them anyway. They're clearly nasty people.
Yeah, but if it is the money she is bothered about, there's nothing you can do really.
Of
I
course
think,
not.
yeah, I think get down to the actual source and therapy.